Hey, what's going on, you guys? Average Bob here with a Week 7 breakdown of the Jacksonville Jaguars at home versus the New York Giants. Even though the Jaguars have a record of 2-5 right now, they are -3 home favorites to the Giants coming into town, and I'll touch on why that is a little bit later on in the video. But first, let's get started talking about the Jaguars. The Jaguars are led by Trevor Lawrence, who's having an okay season so far with 1,300 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. They do have a few options at running back between Travis Etienne, who's coming off his ACL injury from this last season. Also, James Robinson is their leader in rushing yards. And they also have Christian Kirk, who has 362 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns, as he was their big offseason acquisition at the wide receiver spot. Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale is going to have another scheme cooked up. He's going to be bringing the house, blitzing again, trying to get to Trevor Lawrence, trying to make him make those poor decisions and mistakes really early on in this game. So I'd expect a lot of heavy blitzing right off the bat. I also expect Dexter Lawrence to have another huge game up front. He's been playing outside of his mind right now, and I absolutely love to see it because he deserves it. He's a great guy on the team. This is what Wink Martindale had to say about him. So this is how highly regarded Wink thinks of Dexter Lawrence. So maybe this week you'll see some Lawrence on Lawrence crime. Also look out for Kayvon Thibodeau coming off that big strip sack fumble at the end of last week's game versus the Ravens, and I like to see him build a little bit more week over week and get some more sacks on that stat line. The Giants offense will continue to ride Saquon as the feature bell cow there. I'd like to see us continue to use Daniel Bellinger at that tight end spot making plays, as well as Wan'Dale Robinson, as both players scored in Week 6. Both of these players have also gotten better week over week, so I'm looking forward to seeing them continue that success. Find, Bellinger on those quick little out routes in the red zone, or, a couple weeks ago you saw him run that reverse for a touchdown where it looked like he was going to throw it. So Mike Kafka is being very creative, especially in the red zone, for getting, for making plays and putting guys in the right position to have that opportunity to even make a play and not being as conservative of what we've seen, in years past. Danny Dimes only had 6 rushing yards last weekend, but it was completely fine as the Giants still won the game. I think he's nursing that ankle injury back a little bit slowly, so that's probably why he was more in the pocket, but that made him have to make some throws downfield, which I thought he did a pretty good job of doing against the Ravens secondary in Week 6. He also had some good pockets from the Giants offensive line up front, and that leads me to the injury report, where Andrew Thomas was noted on this week's injury report as questionable. I believe the beat reporters were talking about that he had an elbow injury, and I think he does have that kind of, taped up, but he was also limping around towards the end of last week, too, on an ankle where he did have 2 surgeries on, so it'll be interesting to see how he progresses through this week. Obviously, he's one of the top-rated offensive tackles, the number 1 ranked offensive tackle according to Pro Football Focus. So I'd love to see him back out there again this week and do everything we can to make sure he could be on the field and be as productive as he's been so far this season. Defensive end Azeez Ojulari also on that injury report with an ankle. Hopefully he could get back because that defensive front would be great with him on it as well. Dexter Lawrence has been playing great. Kayvon playing great now too. Oshane Ximines having his best season as a Giant, filling in that role for injured guys. Would love to see him back in the mix if he has the ability to do so. Wide receivers Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay, no shocker here, both still out. It sounds like Toney is making some progress and coming back, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw either of these guys, maybe even both, get put in a season-ending IR at some point, just to kind of save face for how bad their season's gone so far. And if they come back and get hurt again, it's season over anyway. And there has been some rumblings recently about NFL executives believing that Kadarius Toney will be traded, which kind of doesn't really make the most sense to me because he hasn't played in all too many games, so why would someone trade for a guy who can't even step on the field? So more to come on that. So even though the Jaguars have lost their last 3 games to the Colts, Texans, and Eagles, they still are 3-point favorites to the Giants. And this really comes to back-end data. The Jaguars aren't as bad as their 2-5 record says. They average 23 points a game, 370 yards a game offensively, and they only give up about 345 a game defensively compared to 350 where the Giants are at. Vegas is taking this information into consideration and saying, as the Giants have constantly had fourth quarter comebacks to win their games, it's sort of an unsustainable stat. And looking at this unsustainable stat, this is why the Giants are +3 on the road. It's saying eventually the Giants will come back to earth. They won't continue to get all these fourth quarter comebacks. But again, this is the NFL. So as long as you could keep it within a score or two, even in the fourth quarter, the Giants can have shown that they could come back and score, 10 points, 14 points, doesn't matter what the lead is. It's always going to be a close game. And the Giants play very close to their competition. They play up, they play down. So I think this one will come down to the end. But having said that, I'm taking the Giants +3, the Giants money line, and the under, which is currently at 42.5. And my last prop bet will be an anytime touchdown for Evan Ingram. He's got a revenge game coming back, so you know he'll have a chip on his shoulder and definitely want to score against the Giants. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Should the Giants be 3-point dogs to a 2-5 Jaguars? Anyway, let's see how it plays out. Looking forward to this week again. Giants have a great shot, great opportunity, and that's all you need in this league. So let's go Giants.